Welcome to a portable edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good friend, your good buddy, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man whom, if he'd decided to start a console in the late 90s, would have called it Spud.head. I give you the Brent.
I was thinking lame.com.
That's,
Actually, I probably couldn't get the .com domain. I'd
yeah,
have to go with like lame dot edu.
yeah,
There you go.
that's perfect for you. You teach others how to be just as lame as you are. Speaking of lame, Brent, you're lamed up right now due to the fact that
Hey,
you can't walk.
it's true. Can't walk, still under the weather sick. It's a glorious day to be alive.
I want people to realize that despite the fact that, and even if you're not watching but listening, the Brit here is docked out in this beautiful robe, satin, no doubt. And you may be thinking, well, he must be sick. He's wearing this robe, but no, that's not true. He wears that all the time. It's a sad testament to his lethargy, but that's okay. The Brit, you know, last week we didn't spin the wheel. Actually, we spun it a bunch of times. Last week was the Thanks for Giving Marathon. Now, I want to touch on this a little bit, Brent, before we move down the line. Listen, I don't want to toot our own horn here because we're not really tooting our horn. We're tooting the horn of all the people that tuned in to the Thanks for Giving Marathon. This was literally one of the top 2 or 3 biggest events we've ever had on the channel. This was a stunner, wasn't it, Brent? I mean, aren't you surprised by that?
Does that mean the quality of our show has been lifted into the stratosphere?
No.
Or the quality of the channel has fallen down the hill of pain?
I don't know what. Maybe the quality of the rest of Twitch went way down for one day. But for one day, we were doing pretty good for ourselves. We had a big crowd in there the whole day, big feisty crowd. And man, we spun the crap out of this wheel, Brent, for 8 hours. We played a lot of games. We had a few games that want to play ball with us. I'm looking at you, PC. But for the rest of them, everything ran real well. You spun the wheel so hard, I thought you were going to send it into the past because you spun it so hard.
I haven't got to spin the wheel for so long. It felt so nice to be not the controller of my own destiny, but at least a small fraction of it.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody that joined us last week. We really appreciate you guys. All the people that gifted subs and stuff. That was awful nice. And we look forward to doing it again next year, the Brent. I had a real good time. That was probably the smoothest marathon I've been a part of so far. And that was even deal with you the whole day. Now, people didn't see the pre-show where we fought and fought and fought. And then the post-show, we fought some more. But we held it together all the way through Amigos. I will say, Brent, as successful as Thanks for Giving Marathon was, people did not turn out in droves for Designosaurus. I don't know what happened. That one. We tanked Amigos, but that's the way it goes sometimes. What are you going to do? Speaking of tanking, by the way, let's talk about this week. 2 weeks ago, we spun the wheel. We made the deal. How do we never get to this one before the Brent? I'm talking about this week's choice. Bam! It's the game.com or Gamecom, if you will.
Yeah, no one calls it the game.com.
Listen, it's not my fault. That's what they labeled the darn thing. The game.com, brother. That's what we're going to call it. Had you ever played, you ever played one of these in real life, the Brit?
No. I have seen them, on the shelf.
Yeah.
But never have played one. Never have held one in my hand.
Sort of like you on the shelf. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, that's this week's thing. Now, we could just say, bam, we're going to play some game.com. That'll be nice, won't it? Oh, no. No, that's not nearly good enough because we also spun, bam, versus. That means myself and the Brent will each defend our games vigorously to determine which game is the true game winner. And I think this is going to be a heated rivalry here over the game.com. But before we get to that, let's have a quick look at the game.com, the Brent. A system that is a real unique system from back in the day. This was manufactured by an outfit called Tiger Electronics. Tiger Electronics, a famous company.
Absolutely.
For making most of the old LCD, liquid crystal, cheapo games. You'll see one, like everyone's got these things sitting around. There's a Double Dragon one or one called Frog or whatever. And they're just like, they're sort of like old school handhelds you'd play like before the Game Boy was around, right?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, they were out there in the same time. But what they were, and I
No, I mean, you
talking about
played them before a Game Boy was invented, is what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
I I saw someone talking about this, and I think it's a very valid point.
Yeah.
The handheld Tiger Electronic games were not video games; they were toys, and that's not to disparage them, but I think that's a very valid point. And I really, after thinking about it, I really agree with that assessment. If you go in thinking that uh, you're buying a video game console or a video game product, you're absolutely set up for disappointment. But if you come in and you say, listen, this is a toy, this is meant to get thrown into a chest or a drawer, take it out on maybe car trips, something to do to kill 10, 15 minutes, that makes those Tiger Electronic handhelds a lot more palatable, in my opinion.
They're the ultimate thing that you pick up when you're standing in line at the supermarket to shut your kid up. One of those deals.
I think that's a little underwhelming, but sure, I can see that.
I'm just saying they were also something like a relative might buy you, thinking that's how they preyed on the suckers out there.
Oh no, I do not agree with that.
I do.
Because
cheap
they
little toys for Billy.
No, they weren't typically put with the video game things. They were put with the toys.
Right.
So I think if Granny went and was looking for a video game and picked one of these up instead, I don't blame Tiger Electronics.
I contend that Granny doesn't know any better. And when she sees these, she goes, "Oh, look, video games. I hear all those are the rage right now." And that's what it makes that she'd grab them.
I think everyone has made grannies out to be way more inept than they actually are.
Well, listen.
Now, do I think that happened at some point, sometimes? Absolutely. I'm sure that happened, but I do not think that was the norm, and I do not think that was the strategy for Tiger Electronics to try to sell these things.
Listen, just to back my point up, I'm looking over here at the chat. The Retro Hour says, Grandma's always bought Tiger games. Thank you, the Retro. See, it's not just me burying grandmothers. It's also other people.
No.
There you go.
Grannies are smarter than that. I don't think any of them thought this was a Tiger Electronics toy was a Game Boy or anything like that.
Yeah, whatever. Well, let's get into the actual particulars of this particular item. A 5th generation handheld console. This thing ran between 97 and 2000. The introductory price on the original model, Brent, $70 US. So they were low end, but still, that's expensive right there. These were not the things you would pick up on your way out of the store. That was a little bit too much money for that.
Yeah.
The things ran on a Sharp SM8521. They had 2 cartridge slots, Brent, which I found interesting. The thing had a serial cable, and it had like a modem that you could get in this thing. This thing ran on 4 AA batteries in the original model, and then they came out with like a slimmed down model called the Pocket Pro that ran on 2 AA's, but you lost the internet connectivity with that one.
Well, okay. I'm gonna stop you since you got into what the hardware is. I want to say something real quick. If the Gamecom would have released initially with the small, cheap $30 Gamecom, without all the PDF crap, PDA crap, without all the internet crap, I think it would have been a mildly successful product, because the games that are on it, $30 for the system. If they would have been asking maybe $10 for the games, maybe even $15 for the game back in early 2000, I think you could have had a winner. But when they build this as some kind of PDA, some kind of adult way to check your email and all that crap, it was a poor move. It was a poor idea to think that they were actually going to compete with the Game Boy with an obviously inferior device. And they weren't. I mean, this is way down the line. If they would have launched side by side with the Game Boy, maybe they would have gotten somewhere, but they absolutely did not. So the strategy from Tiger Electronic, because they were absolutely trying to compete with the Game Boy. They were absolutely trying to compete with the Game Boy because they had done other ventures where they were competing with the Virtual Boy. So their strategy in this, they did it. They did. It's true.
I know what you're talking about. That thing.
Their strategy on this was just flawed. And it's unfortunate. Because the Gamecom gets a lot of crap, and it deserves 90% of what it gets. But it was failing at the top that did this thing in before it ever got a chance to get off the ground.
I'm gonna put the GameCon over for a minute, believe it or not. Now the original GameCom with the modem in it was a. I mean, there was a lot of things in this that were the first time you'd ever seen them. All right. The fact that they had included a modem. Listen to this. The Game.com was the first video game console to feature a touchscreen. Okay, and it was the first handheld video game console to have internet connectivity. Those are two huge check marks in the GameCon's favor. Now, what happened is Tiger Electronics tried to keep a foot in two worlds, and that's what failed on this thing. You can have a system like this and have people pay some bucks for it and make a quality system. Or you can do what they've always done, which is make these cheapo systems that are more of a spontaneous purchase item, right? They tried to do both. You can't do both. You can't cheap out on the system and charge a higher price. You can't do both. And that's what they did.
I agree.
Because one of the big failures of the system was the screen. Let's face facts.
Oh, yeah.
The screen on
was
this
really bad.
was the El Garbaggio. And that made it most of the games we're showing. If you're watching the video at home, the games you're thinking, hey, these look pretty good. And emulated, I played some of these games. There's nothing wrong with a good chunk of them. Okay, to be truthful, the problem is they look great on emulation, but in real world they look like garbage. The screen is a blurry disaster.
Yeah, the screen had a really, really low refresh rate.
Yeah, and even when they switched to the new model, the Pocket Pro, the screen got slightly smaller. By the way, they went from 3.5 inches to 2.8 inches, but it still looked like garbage. It's like they didn't make the screen better, and so that's what killed it. I mean, you've got all the buttons. Listen to PDA stuff. You mocked it a little bit, but that stuff was in vogue at the time. And PDA stuff that was cool. What they were going for here. This is like a step between the Game & Watch and the Game Boy, which is there's an area to play in there if you're at the right price point. I agree with what you said that you could actually take this thing down to the Pocket Pro. If the Pocket Pro had been the first thing they released at that price point and it had a Game Boy level screen in it that was, I mean, this thing's also not backlit. That same old story. You can get away with that if you're Nintendo because you're putting out games that people will play, even if it's tough to do. They're not going to do that on the Game.com. And not having a backlight. I mean, we're talking here 97 to 2000. The Game Boy had been out for a long time when this thing was competing with the Game Boy Color and stuff. And this thing was just tardy to the party, the BRENT. So that's the way it goes. But all that said, I mean, I was surprised how not crap I thought this was. Look at some of the games. Someone actually spent some time, like, putting some of these games together.
On some of them, yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the fact that it does have a modem, internet connectivity, serial cable for 2-player. I mean, the problem, of course, nothing supported the modem, so we got that going on.
Email, text-based
no
surfing
no
and
game
email
supported. It's what I mean.
No. And did you see have you seen the picture of the modem? It's huge. It's bigger than the console.
The truth of the matter is, I was also reading about the ad campaign for this. Not good. Did you read about this? They said they basically what they do is they have a spokesman who insults the gamers, who asks questions about the console while stating it plays more games than you idiots have brain cells. That's an interesting. That's like if me and you were doing an ad campaign for something. Listen, idiots, buy it.
It was trying to be edgy.
Well,
and I get it. It was probably a little late in the game to try to be that kind of edgy.
Yeah.
But that was what they were going for. Like I said, they were going for the older crowd, not adult necessarily, but that
you can sort of tell that by the
into
games
adulthood.
too. Yeah, there's no kids games on here really. Something you also can't see from the emulated screens is that the screen has a grid of dots behind it, and these are basically for the touch screen elements of it. I've read that the touchscreen's not too bad on these, and it's the funny thing is, you want to take a guess how many of these were sold commercially, the BRENT?
I saw the numbers.
Okay, well there you go, 300,000 units. Next time you just lie, and you say something dumb, then I mock you. That's how this works, dummy. But they've sold 300,000 units this total, which
Yeah.
is low. But the funny
No,
thing
that's
is,
huge.
well, no, that's low on the success trail. That's not that good.
You know, that's more than the links, right?
I don't know. I'd have to go look. Now think about
It
it.
is.
The
It
the
is.
truth of the matter is that despite those low numbers, these are still readily available in the package. You can find them.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many of them were stored up somewhere that got taken and stacked in a warehouse somewhere, never to be seen again.
It's something we should say real quick.
Yeah.
Because we obviously looked at two games that we picked to be the highlight of the system, or however you want to say it. A few games we didn't look at that I want to comment on real quick.
Yeah.
This had Duke Nukem 3D. However, it plays more like a Castle Wolfenstein, and you can't turn left or right. You actually always face one direction, and anytime there's a corner to go around, it goes around it itself. And it has a control a shooting element where one button shoots to the left of the screen, one shoots to the middle, one shoots to the right. A very clever way of doing it.
Yeah, it looked
but
interesting.
ultimately not very correct for the gameplay that it's trying to be.
Did you give that one a whirl?
I dabbled with it. Again, it has some voice clips. In fact, it has some voice clips that I don't remember from the actual game. It's cursy. It's trying to do that attitude thing, but I don't think it pulls it off as well as the computer counterpart that it's trying to mimic. I would not say it's good. I would say it's playable on emulation. I can't imagine how horrible it'd be on the actual system, though.
I'm gonna go with they gave it a shot on that one, because I
There
did
you
try
go.
that one. I thought, this they gave this a shot. The BRENT. It's funny. I picked a game that I'm arguing for today, sight unseen, and then I, of course, that's the way I like to do it. Then I went through and played a bunch of the games to try out, and this system lends itself to a certain style of game, which we'll get into. But
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this another way too. If you look at Tiger's old games, we talked about how they were sort of like Game & Watch style games. If you'd had one of their old Tiger games, and I had some of those, and then someone gave you this, you would think this was the best system of all time. I mean,
if you lived in a bubble, yes.
Like, this thing plays games, brother. It does. I mean,
Yeah.
it's surprisingly efficient. It just looks horrible. You mentioned
Its other two big standout games that we should mention that we didn't pick was a Sonic the Hedgehog game, which is absolute garbage. It tries to make its own levels and do its own music. It's almost like a parody of Sonic games. Even through emulation, it's jittery.
Yeah.
So that on actual consoles and stuff, it would have to be just abysmal.
You're used to Sonic going at a certain speed, and when he's not at the enclosed, it's very noticeable.
Yeah. The other standout on this is the Resident Evil game. I didn't play it, but I've seen footage of it, and I heard some other people talking about it. I'm going to go back and check it out. I really didn't even discover it was on the system until way too late, but it looks okay. Actually, it looks great, and it kind of follows the Resident Evil 2 storyline, to my understanding, but is a much different game, a much slower paced game. This thing took chances.
Yeah,
it took chances. Not all of them were successful. In fact, most of them were not successful, but I give it props for taking chances.
Yeah, I tried a couple. I thought about going with a fighting game since we were doing fight. So I tried Fighters Mega Mix and Mortal Kombat. They took two different approaches towards the system. Fighters Mega Mix used big characters and backgrounds and was choppy and slow.
Yeah.
And Mortal Kombat used smaller characters and was quicker, but I would not necessarily say it was. I mean, I thought it was better than Fighters Mega Mix. I don't like Fighters Mega Mix, period, on any system. I've never liked it, but it's not good at all in this one. And Mortal Kombat, not great. I mean, I would say it's better than Fighters Mega Mix. That's just me.
Fighters Mega Mix was trying to preserve that 3D that the game actually is, and no, it didn't do well.
It's quite remarkable, though, that this game got all these big licenses that it did. You're talking, you think about it. You're talking the Resident Evil series, Sonic, Duke Nukem, Mortal Kombat. I mean, these are big titles. So someone somewhere saw something in the game.com, but I can understand why, if I'm honest.
I can too.
The cartridges,
Tiger Electronics.
The cartridges initially on this thing were between $20 and $30. That's too expensive for the time. Yeah. Eventually, they came down to. Well, I'm sure they came way down, but eventually, it wasn't too long before they went down between $14 and up from there. And then obviously, this thing was getting blown out later on down the line. This is probably this is one of the most interesting handhelds we've looked at. I mean, I think this was a missed opportunity, and they had 80% of it right. You know, that's the funny thing.
That might be a.
Well, I'm talking. I mean, listen. What if? Okay, modem aside and all this other stuff. You
double cartridge slot completely worthless.
No. There's a reason for that. That's for the internet connectivity. Okay.
Right, which shouldn't have been even.
Well, listen, they were working at an angle here. I mean, this was the. It
was
first
a dumb angle.
Well, I like it. I like what they tried. Ultimately, it didn't get there. But I mean, I respect the effort from Tiger. You don't expect that kind of action from the Tiger, so I thought that was dandy. But this thing fizzled and died. It's funny. I looked at the console reviews for this thing. This was all the rage at ECS, you know, the big show, and people were on board with it. But when they released it, people sort of were middle of the road. They said the technology seemed out of date. They didn't like the screen, the stuff you would expect them people not to like about it. I mean, some people skewered it too, you know. Yeah. But what are you gonna do? But it's an interesting footnote in history. And like I said, if you had one of these now, I wonder if there's a screen replacement you could stick in this thing and make these games more fun. Or I wonder if anybody's taking the time to do like a backlight mod or something. Might be something fun to look into sometime. Because if you had a screen, a backlit screen on this thing, and you had a decent screen in it, you might have something. I bet it's not that tough to do programming on this thing either, Brent. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you looked at any of the classic games, because there's like Williams Classic Pack, and there's
horrible. They're absolutely garbage.
Well, but visually, this thing lends itself to those games if you wanted to do them. I guess is what I'm saying. You could pull
what? Not with the current screen.
No. I'm talking with my imaginary backlit screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, if we're going into crazy land, like we can get all kinds of fun things.
I thought Frogger was good. I thought Frogger was pretty good. So, with all that said, but I think that's a pretty good look at that. I really enjoyed looking through this thing. I have to say I enjoyed it. We picked 2 games, Brent. We're going to let you lead the dance, mostly because your game is clearly inferior to mine, Brent. What did you pick this week to represent on Game.com?
I tried to go with a Gamecom strength as opposed to its daringness or its innovation.
You played it safe.
Because when you're talking about Gamecom, you have to play it safe. And because of that, I went with Monopoly on the Gamecom. What? You don't approve of my Gamecom choice?
Listen, you phoned it in. This was you could have done a slam dunk, but no. You went for the layup. But that's okay. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something, Aaron. When you're up by 30 points, layups are all you need. So, Monopoly on this, first of all, is it a faithful representation of Monopoly with the correct rules and pieces, property names, all that good stuff? Yes. It has all of your classic properties. All the prices are correct. They didn't do anything stupid with the chance or the community chest cards, at least that I saw. So it was something that was faithful to the board game. Now, with that said, they could have left it with that. They could have just taken that it's a Monopoly board game and went fine with it. Just put something out there. But they didn't. They didn't. They went ahead, they added animations to all the cards, all the chants, all the community chest, all of the player pieces. They had sound effects for all the player pieces, which actually was not a good thing in the end, but at least they tried something. They had a background music. They had this interesting perspective thing when you're sliding your piece along the board and you get to the corner. It tries to make this 3D shift, which is fun. And the AI for Monopoly is not bad. I had Monopoly. Let me back up one little thing. I hate Monopoly. It's a horrible board game. Now, that said, I had
disagree.
Monopoly on the Game Boy, and the AI was so easy to cheese on it that it was hard not to just cheat, essentially, and win the game. I could not find a way in the limited time I spent on this to cheat the AI. Maybe there is, maybe there's ways you can kind of catch it up, stumble it, make it make stupid trades or something like that. I wasn't able to find it. To me, that is a mega win because that means you can sit in the back of your parents' car on your way to Granny's, play Monopoly, and have a good time. Have a competitive time. That is so important. All the aspects of this are really well done. I'm sure on the actual screen, it's a little more blurry. I'm sure on the actual screen, some of those nice animations are lost, but it doesn't hurt the game. It doesn't hurt gameplay. Now, with all that said, it's far from perfect. My biggest gripe was it wasn't easy to tell who owned what properties. I think they should have added a symbol whenever a property was bought and to show on the board, on the main board that you're walking around, to show what properties have been sold and to who. Absolute biggest gripe I got about the game is that. However, pretty much every other aspect of the game was good. It was good. What did you think about this, Aaron?
I played this a few times this week, and I've not played. Is the Game Boy version almost identical to this, or
No, it does not have quite the flair.
yeah?
To be completely honest,
I will tell you, I thought this was outstanding. I thought this was a great game. I've played tons of Monopoly over the years, but playing the computerized version is so much better because it takes place of all the crap that you don't want to do, all the money counting out, all the crap you forget to do. I never like mortgage stuff when I'm playing with other people or like do stuff to where I could, mortgage pros. I've got to get more money to buy stuff. I was wheeling and dealing in this. I had a game where I owned all the railroads. I owned Park Place and Boardwalk. I was loading them up with houses. I put the boots to the guy. It was great. It was a good competitive game. It gives you can play a bunch of different players. You can have a mix of human and computer players. You can turn the animations on and off. Each of the little icons are represented. They've got sound effects. You can turn that stuff on and off. The video is great. The board's rendered in 3D, so when you watch the guys go around it looks cool.
Not 3D.
It is.
Yeah.
It's in it does. The board spins in 3D. It's cool looking.
But it's not 3D.
Listen, it looks cool. I don't care what you say.
Sure.
When you go to jail, the guy blows the whistle. It sounds like a policeman siren, and they take you to jail. I think that it shows your guy getting behind the bars. I like that. It lets you turn on and off different options. It's got the full rules that are on the cartridge. The cartridge
it has
rules.
proper rules.
Yeah, you've got all kinds of options you can turn on and off it, like to make your house rules. It's just I thought it was outstanding. I haven't played a lot of these. I don't know how many times I've played Monopoly on like a handheld or even on like a PC or something. but this runs quickly. It's easy to understand what's going on. If I had any gripes, I wish that, like, on the selection screen where you do stuff like with your property, the first thing it asks you is which player you are, and then you have to kind of pick, and it's kind of weird the way that's kind of odd. But that's
You know why it does that though, right?
I don't.
Because you can play this hot seat. If you had 4 people sitting around the table, you could
Yeah,
still play it.
I suppose it would have looked better. It would have made more sense if I had more than one other opponent. You know, when I first started this, I'm like, oh, can I not play with 2 people? I'm gonna get it for that. No, they got everything. You can easily
it's 6 player.
You can easily sit around at a bus stop or in the car or whatever and play this and know exactly what's going on. I had more grasp of the game of Monopoly playing this than I've ever had. Like, I was wheeling and dealing. I felt like a big man, big money man when I was playing this. When you land on one of the cards, they whip up in a very cool style. All the cards are the classic cards from the game, but they're subtly animated to make them funnier, which is great. I mean, someone took some time. That's why I wondered if this had been ported from something else, because the fact that they took the time to do all the stuff that they did, it's just awesome. I will say that you're right about the property thing, but when you play it, when you land on something, you know right away if it's yours or not, because it tells you can either buy it or you pay someone or it's yours.
Yeah.
And then when you go to build houses, it only lets you build houses on stuff that you got all the colors. And so you can get away with not having a decent idea of which properties are yours. But it would be, I will say that's a limitation of the colors of the screen. You can sort of tell. I wish they'd done something like they did for the houses, where they actually put a little icon on the thing. They could have done that.
All they had to do was put a 1, 2, 3, or 4 denoting which player's property was what.
Yeah,
and once you put houses on it, it doesn't matter anymore.
I found that I've been doing income tax wrong the entire time I've ever played this. So I learned that because I landed on it. They took me to school on that. Now I should have picked $200, not 10%. I took a beating on that. I almost lost.
Well,
the game.
Depends on what aspect of the game you're at.
Yeah,
but yeah.
But I've got zero bad to say about this. I love this game. I played the crap out of it. I think it's a great game. As on a crappy system, you wouldn't expect a game of this quality. Now, I'll save my ridicule for the end of the show. But in terms of the game itself, I loved every part of it. I've got nothing
wait a
bad
minute.
to say.
You just said you've got nothing bad to say about it.
No, I got something bad to say, but it's about you, not the game.
Oh, okay, that's fair. But yeah, really, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot more to say about Monopoly. It does what it's supposed to do, and it does it well.
Yeah, I mean, what a game, eh? I looked this up on eBay in case you didn't. Did you have a look to see what it was going for?
I did not see any game.com or Gamecom versions of Monopoly, but I'm guessing you found one.
Oh yeah, I found in fact I found a bunch of stuff for sale. So you could get a factory sealed copy of Monopoly for $70. Now, you could get loose copies. If you look around, they'll pop up, and they're decidedly cheaper. So, and I should mention that you could get a factory sealed game.com for $174. So
don't do that.
That's still in the blister pack. These all came in those blister packs. So
right. But the other bad part, and we didn't mention this, I guess because we've mentioned it so much before, these old screens will rot.
Yeah.
And they are not long for this world. So I would not run out and buy a $175 Gamecom, and I certainly wouldn't buy a $70 version of Monopoly, no matter how good it is.
I would buy a Gamecom for like $50, and I would buy a cartridge for it for say $5. I'd buy it. Like if I could get this game and this, because I could stick this thing in the car and just play some Monopoly, it'd be great.
There's cheaper, better alternatives.
Yeah, but when let me tell you something. You know how you pick up the chicks? You go to a bus stop in downtown Ashland, and you got on your Sunday best, and you whip out the Gamecom, and you kick back with some Monopoly, and that's when they start buzzing around. Trust me on this.
I'm pretty sure when you start your pitch for how to pick up chicks with go down to the bus stop, pretty much everyone's going to tune out after that, Aaron.
Listen, you never know. Try it sometime, won't you? So there you go. Well done to Brent. That was Brent's brief look at Monopoly for the GameCube. Now,
not the GameCube.
The Gamecom. So, it was my turn to pick. I was running late this week on my pick because I couldn't decide. And
You
so
absolutely were.
I did what I like to do, Brent. I took a chance, right? And I went with the racing title, the predominant racing title on the game.com. And that was BAM, not that, BAM, Indy 500, officially licensed Indianapolis 500 game for the Game.com. Now, why did I choose this? I wanted something that would show off the speed of this machine and highlight its graphical capabilities. And I think this does both quite nicely.
It does. I'll give you that.
So Indy 500, published and developed by Tiger. They did, I think, almost all the games on this, all 20 games. Released in 97, and this is your classic racing game. You're tasked with winning the Indy 500 after qualifying and going to work. What? No, you don't like that?
No. You're not tasked with doing anything. Go ahead. Keep going.
Listen,
I didn't want to
stop
interrupt.
ragging on my game, dude. So, Indy 500 puts you behind the wheel of a high-performance automotive vehicle as you wheel around the track at breakneck speed. This game may remind some people of the classic game Indy 500 from Sega, and it does have its similarities, that's for sure. They both take place in cars. They're on tracks, for example. No, the first thing that's going to strike you when this pops up is the incredible graphical detail that is. I mean, and you've got to give it this, Brent. I know you're ragging on it, but I mean, this thing, when this thing first starts up, it looks real nice. It comes up with the Indy 500 logo to tell you that this is officially licensed. There's some car sounds. There's some balloons being launched. There's a picture of the stadium, and that's how you know it's gold. Then you get to start the game. Now I will say this thing is not option heavy. You've got start and options. It lets you turn on rain on and off. It lets you go from easy, medium, and difficult, and it lets you fool with the sound. There's only like, what, 4 or 5 sound effects? I probably wouldn't have put that part in the game if I was going to be making the game, but they did it, by God. Then you pick from one of 3 cars. There are supposedly some mystery cars hidden in here. I don't know where they were. And then once you pick your 3 cars, of course, the cars are split up between the ones that accelerate the fastest. One is the one that gets the best top speed. One has the best handling. All right. Then you get a great screen where it says, "Gentlemen, start your engines." That scrolls across the screen, and then it goes to
it talks.
It talks. It talks a couple different times when you start the race, and then you're on the track in your car. I would say
that's where the wheels come off.
No. Listen, let me get through this. You can't. Don't be influencing people. This, I will say, without hesitation, is the best looking game on the system. What do you think, Brett?
Disagree.
I
disagree.
What do you think looks better?
Resident Evil.
No, this looks better. This has big, well detailed, well drawn, artistically rendered cars. You've got the track. You've got the track moves differently with the clouds, so you get that sort of parallax feeling to it. You can see the crowd up in the stands. The other cars look real cool. Something else this game's got, you could have just said, listen, you got your car race game, good enough. Wrong. This allows you to go from first to third person view, which is cool. It kind of zooms out slowly, well, not slowly. It's pretty quick, actually. Zooms out, zooms back in. Lets you go from first to third person, which is a neat gimmick. It's basically pointless, but still it's kind of neat. I mean, it doesn't really change things that much, but you can still do it. The first thing you do is you have to qualify, which is not super difficult. Qualify, and then it's time for the main event with other cars. Now let's talk about the racing itself. So, anyone that's ever seen this sort of racing, I mean, on an oval, there's a lot of turns. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an oval. So this game has a unique system to control your car on the track. As you come into a turn, little arrows will come out the side of the upper left or right part of the screen, and they tell you, that basically are your indicators as to how close you are to the wall and how much you need to slow down before you're going to hit the wall. At first, every time I came to a curve, I just repeatedly wrecked, and I think a lot of people do that. And I think this little element of the game is lost on them. and they just say, "Well, I can't do anything. I give up. It's too hard." All right, but that's a cop out. All right, because it's actually a fairly decent system to gauge how close you are to the wall and how much speed you need to have when you go into it. I'll have to say, as I went through it, I understood how the system worked, and it was easier to not hit the wall. I could go through races and not hit the wall. Now, this game is called Indy 500. It actually could, I mean, a more apt name would be Taking a Curve Simulator, because that's the game. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's the game. You go in and you take the curve, and that's the whole game. How fast you can get through the curves, your technique going through the curves. That's the game. All right. When you play this outside of the qualification, race, there's other cars that you have to contend with, and so there's a little more death. Plus, you'll have to avoid cars that exploded on the track or like oil slicks. There's even a pit stop gimmick in there, although it's not. I don't know why they added that, except it looks cool because it's not like the actual pit stop. You don't really do anything.
You don't do anything.
It looks pretty good though, but it's not bad. The game though is mostly, you know what it reminds me of, Brent, a little bit. Outside of the curve portion, it's just like one of those old games we used to have where the joystick had the car attached to it, and you just sort of move the little wheel back and forth, and there's a paper screen that rolls behind it.
You're close. You're close.
Except those didn't have curves that you had to avoid like this does. I can see how this would turn some people off. I thought it was okay, in all honesty. I think graphically it looks good. They do a good job of giving you the feeling of speed. The 3 different cars play completely differently. Putting this on the different difficulty levels makes a difference. It actually does a lot. The rain versus sun. It's funny, that to me that didn't make that much of a difference, to be honest. Did that do anything for you?
No, I didn't see any difference at all with it.
I mean, it's a little small
less
graphical.
cloud scrolling, I guess.
I think this could have been a contender. What did you think, Brent?
This is Tiger Electronics saying, remember those games we used to make that we sold for like $10 that had like 4 pieces of graphic, then people just hit left and right and kind of went down the screen? That's this, but in souped up form. You never ever feel like you're going down the track or you're approaching the curve. The game just says, hey man, you're in a curve now. You never feel like you're taking a curve. And when the game is Curve Simulator, not knowing that you're taking a curve is a bad thing. So mega points off for that. Second thing, you are modeled in an Indy 500 car, but there is absolutely, in my opinion, no sense of speed. I have no idea what you're talking about. The clouds don't go over top of your head. They scroll up like they're some kind of steam puff coming from the ground.
When you go fast, that's the way the clouds look, dude.
I don't think so, Aaron. I mean, maybe if you're high as a kite, and I don't mean flying in the air. So the next thing you have to worry about this game is all the vehicles that you come across.
Yeah.
And those vehicles are just literal bumps. You run into them and you bounce off of them, and then you run into them and you bounce off of them. And maybe at some point, you will be far enough away that your sprite doesn't accidentally touch their sprite, and you might possibly pass somebody. It is such a rarity, though, that it's a little treat every time that you do. You will spend most of this game spinning out. And you're right. It's not from hitting the wall. Yes, you do spin out when you hit the wall, and that does happen a lot. But you get used to that. You just slow down. You don't run into the wall as much. But there is no game here. This is the most lack of a game that I've ever seen. How can you race if racing is the aspect of the game? Why is it always going straight? The track never physically actually curves.
It curves.
And this is Indy.
It curves.
No, it doesn't. It never.
The wall curves.
No, you never actually see the curve coming up.
Oh,
your camera just forces you to look at a wall for a little while.
Right, but that's when the little arrows come out to tell you that instead of the curve.
I understand the defense you're trying to make, Aaron, but it's a lame one and it's crap. Because what the game actually is looking down a track and eventually the game saying, you're in a curve now. And you're like, what? I didn't see a curve coming up. Garbage. Do not play this, folks. In fact, for those poor people that did review the game, which you have to go back and get both those up on Discord if you don't mind, Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
I apologize for Aaron's choice of game and making you play it. This might be the most abysmal handheld game I have ever played.
Oh, that can't be true. After all those crappy systems we played, you're burying this one.
Aaron, this was the least amount of fun. And I tried to figure out if I was doing it wrong. And then I went and listened to other people who I felt like might have an idea. And they were like, yeah, no, this is crap. And then I read the Discord reviews and they were like, yeah, this is crap. And I just accepted there is no good to find in this game. It's crap.
Listen, I'm going to save the Discord reviews to when we get to the versus segment here that's coming up next. First of all, the sense of speed is clearly visible if you watch the game and play it. There's speed lines everywhere. Now, granted, the speed lines stick around even when you've stopped or wrecked and when you finish the race. But there's speed lines.
Those are supposed to be road textures.
When
Aaron.
I play this game, I put myself. I'm in the speed racer car, the Mach 5, I believe it was called. And you're going down. You know that monkey's in the trunk, that little punk, and that kid. You're going down the track at breakneck speed, just like in the old animated shows. It's actually the beautifully animated game reminds me of like watching like an anime. Quite nice. I think the art on this is good. I think I think people that didn't like this game because they wrecked so much are just not understanding how the game works.
I think you're trying to make something beautiful out of something that's not beautiful.
Well, okay, let me cut to the chase here on this thing. I looked this up on eBay to see if it was what kind of money it was drawing. You can get a loose version of this bad boy for $10. You can get the set. You can wait. I'm not done. Complete box. That's gonna run you $17. So you got to pay an extra for the blister pack. You got to pay extra money. This game did not review well because of people that didn't open their minds, no doubt. The All Games Guide gives it a 60.
That's incredibly generous.
The Video Game Critic, he didn't like it. He gave it a 25.
That's closer.
And
yeah.
A more modern review, Retro Game Reviews, he called this, it's the worst of the driving games I've ever played. He gave this a 10. 10. Now, these people, they've all fallen for the hype on this game, clearly. And I'll defend it vigorously. Shall we just cut right to the video? I'm going to go to the Discord here. Let's cut to the fight scene here at Brent. We're going to fight over these games now. So first off, we're going to bring the Discord in on this. We've got reviews of both games. We'll start with your game. Pajako writes, I've played many digital versions of Monopoly over the years, and despite the Game.com having a bad rep, the developers appear to have spent some time and effort on this one, and it's very playable. Auctions are a little slow when computer takes its turn, and I didn't like having to slowly bid up properties. I turned those off, by the way. There are great animations, including when the board turns 90 degrees as the pieces go around. However, having seen the refresh rate on the screen of a real device, I can imagine a lot of this gets lost in the motion of the blur. If you have ever picked up a Game.com with Monopoly bundled in it, you won't be disappointed, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get a copy. Otherwise, overall, it doesn't do anything special, but then it is Monopoly, and the scope is limited, 7 out of 10. Our good buddy Oneg writes, Monopoly for the Game.com is one of the more playable titles for the device. Launched in 1999 as part of a lineup surrounding the launch of the budget version of the Game.com Pocket Pro. So this came out with the Pocket Pro. 2-player link cable or up to 6 players hot seats adds value. Some of the design choices and lack of options are a receipt for disaster with hot seat play. On an emulator, the animations are quite crisp, and despite being low resolution, actually aren't completely terrible. On the actual device, much of the clarity is lost to screen blurring.
I can believe that.
Dice rolls seem random enough, and AI decision-making, while occasionally slow, seems logical enough for solo play. Not a big dog, nor a king dog, but at least an actual game. 5 out of 10. So they liked it. Now, let's get to the big. Let's see if these people have any common sense. Ane comes back with a review of my game, Indy 500. Indy 500 for the R Zone has a shrill, ear-piercing soundtrack, but at least the Game.com version has something resembling multiple FPS, engine sounds, and digitized voice samples. That's where the positives end. Gameplay is stopped if you go anywhere near anything else, resulting in stoppage of play and a slideshow of your car spinning around.
That animation got very tiring.
I didn't see it that much because I'm so good. Your car feels stationary while the track and other cars move around you at a low frame rate. Controls sort of work, but the underlying game is so poorly designed that it doesn't matter. Playing on an emulator makes it easier to see what's going on, but definitely doesn't make the game any more playable. 1 out of 10. What are you doing? But Jocko's going to save me with his review. I loaded it up and saw the 3D car graphics. I thought, wow, this looks amazing. However, that feeling took a running jump out of the window as I quickly realized that this game is no bueno. The controls seem okay, but at the drop of a hat, you'll crash into a barrier. Get used to doing that. Spray collision is lousy, and you'll be bounced off or crashing into other vehicles more often than overtaking them. Your car engine sounds more like a UFO. But yet all the other sounds in the game are actually pretty good. Hey, you gave that some love. The sad thing is, I can really see how a few tweaks to the collision detection might not have made this game that bad. And given this seems to be the only driving game for the Game.com, it's a real shame. 3 out of 10. Okay, that didn't do me any favors there. I'll admit that. Now,
I think a 3 is fair.
You've buried my game, and here's why I should win this versus. And I'm looking at you, chat. I want the chat here I want you to render a decision after you hear this impassioned plea. All right. There are many games for the Game.com like Monopoly, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, a couple of Wheel of Fortune games, little puzzle games that any goof can knock off. All right. These are games that appeared everywhere. They could put them together with no problem. And then I could have picked one of these games, been comfortable and safe like a geek. But I went out there on a limb because I'm bringing something out on the Game.com that people aren't seeing. And that's beautiful, artistic rendering, beautiful cars rendered the way you like them in your favorite sport. The engine's roaring, man's man sport, where you roar around the track at breakneck speed. I think the game is misunderstood. I think the game is better than people give it credit for. The cars look awesome. Did I mention that? It sounds great. And on top of everything else, you also get that cool feature where you can zoom from first to third person. Didn't have to add that. They did it for the love, brother. And that's why they added it in there. I think in a versus game, sometimes the little guy gets to win, not because he's more powerful or because he's better, but because he's got more heart. And that's what I've got. Me and Indy 500, we're not the prettiest girl at the Badget, but we've got heart and talent, and that's why we should win this Game.com versus. What do you think, Brent?
Wrong.
There you go.
Here, Aaron, let me tell you, you know who also had heart? That little dweeb on Captain Planet, and he was never useful at anything.
Well, you're not
You
wrong.
want fire, Aaron. You want wind. You want ice. You don't want heart. You want something you can go out there and play. And that's exactly what Monopoly was. They took a basic concept. Yes, they did. They started with a basic concept, and then they made it better. And they made it better through animations. They made it better through good AI. They made it better by having it be able something you could hot swap. And even though we didn't mention it in the review, this was also one of the few games that you could link up with another Game.com device and play 2-player that way. So they took a basic concept and then they innovated. They made it more than it had to be. And that's what a winner is, Aaron. Anyone can get out there and stand at the plate to play a little baseball, but you have to get good at something to change the game. You didn't change the game. Your game didn't change the game. It went out there to play baseball and got into the swimming pool. Who knows what it was trying to do, but it did it poorly. You lose, it's over. This wasn't even a competition. This is what you get when you don't do research before you pick a game. Period.
I thought it looked pretty. The screenshots looked pretty. Listen,
There you go.
I think we can all agree to that impassioned plea that I'll win because my game's superior. So, with that out of the way, listen, your Monopoly was awesome. All right, just shut up. All right, all right. I got jobbed out. All right, I'm curtain jerking on this one. Let's just get to the darn wheel. Get me out of here. All right, Brent. Brent, we got a whole slate of new crap on the wheel this week. Our Retro Rewind piece, though, let's get to that first. And you know why, Brent? Because, bam, it's sponsored by our good buddy over at Retro Rewind. Frank, give them the scoop, Brent.
Folks, we need you to go to retrorewind.ca. Go in there, find yourself some Amiga, find yourself some Commodore. They've got it all. They've got your cap kits, they've got your devices, they've got your functional gadgets. They keep adding stuff all the time. If you aren't tuned in to their Twitter or their Discord channel, I highly recommend it because it updates you every time something new is going over on retrorewind.ca. And they do it on a regular basis. Now, they don't spam you to death. They don't just sit there and pound on you. But whenever something new comes on the market that they think you're going to be interested about, they let you know it. And if you are into those Commodores, Amigas, you have to get into this stuff. And if you've got something broke, Aaron, tell them the best way to get their broken stuff fixed.
What you do is you send it up to Frank. He'll take care of your business. This guy's not so ham and egger. He's actually a seasoned pro with decades of experience. So not only can you get product up there, you can get cap kits and whatnot to fix it yourself, or you can leave it to the professional, our good buddy Frank. By the way, Brent, Frank has just, hot off the presses, he's after literally many months of work, it's finally looks like it's been announced for the color computer. You know, me and the Brent grew up with the Coco.
Absolutely.
Frank is now, he's worked out a deal. He's going to be selling the Coco SDC. It's going to be an SD card solution for the Coco. I've got one of these things, and these things are double. You gotta have one. If you got a Coco, holy crap, go get you one of these things. These will be available at Retro Rewind to go along with all of his Commodore support. He's adding Coco to the mix. It's like Frank's reading my mind, the Brent, with these products. Now,
yeah,
you know, Christmas is coming. What better time to get that special someone in your life, a floppy drive emulator, a Coco SDC, maybe a bag of caps, right? Is that what you're getting Terry for Christmas, the Brent? A big bag of capacitors? If you need that, please use the promo code TISARG. That's TISARG. You're going to save 10% off your order, and Frank's going to give a portion of the money will be going out to his local food bank up in Canada to set those people up, the less fortunate people, Brent. There's a lot of people that are dependent on these food banks right now at this time of the year, and so it's awesome that Frank's being a charitable fellow and taking care of business. Now, each of the shows...
To say he's a hell of a guy would be an incredible understatement.
Yeah. Each of the shows that Frank supports at retrorewind.ca has their own promo code, and whoever gets the most buys with their promo code are going to get a couple gift certificates to give away to the listeners. So buy, and if we end up taking care of business, we'll give away those gift certificates. Ignore that. Unfortunately.
Also, if we ARG, obviously the underdog in the retrorewind.ca.
That's true.
A give out there. Dear listeners, if we were to win this, you will receive something incredibly special.
Well, you're sugaring up the pot, Brent? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying. I can't go into it,
you're
right?
You're too competitive. That's your problem.
I'm just saying. Listen, it's everyone wins. You get incredible merchandise and 10% off. Food banks get a little something extra.
Yeah.
And if we come out on top, I'm telling you, something special for you guys.
Very good, very good. Well, let's see.
You know what?
Yeah.
Let's say you don't have a Commodore, you don't have an Amiga, you don't have a Coco. First of all, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, no kidding,
Go buy a shirt.
That's right.
Use our promo code.
Yeah.
Let us win. I want to win.
Yeah, just stop being so competitive. Okay, let's see what's behind the Retro Rewind piece here. And the winner this week, the Game Gear. The Game Gear.
Game Gear.
Let's see what we added this week. We had to add 2 pieces, Brent, because we used so many pieces last week. we added time traveling games to the list. Time traveling games, that'll be kind of fun to Brent if we pick that one. We also added, let me find the other one here, games marketed towards girls. That'll be neat. So let's spin this sucker, shall we?
Absolutely.
Gave that a Brent spin right there.
That was a much better spin.
Thank you. I had to move the mic away to get that one off. And the winner is, hey, you'll love this one, Brent, baby games. These are games that feature a baby. So that'll be
Aaron,
nice.
Can you pull that piece and let us know who picked that?
Oh, yeah, good idea. I forgot about doing that. It was John, boat of car, Schaller. Put that one on the wheel, the Brent. So that should be a lot of fun. Baby games. There's a ton of games that they're featuring a baby. Now, we're going to play games that you play the baby, right? That's the deal. Or take care of a baby. How do you want to do it?
I think any game where the baby is the main focus.
I'm playing Popeye. There you go. I'm calling it now.
But the baby isn't the main focus.
Yeah, but he's in there. He's the main focus. Sweet Pea? No? All right, fine. I was just joking anyway. Hey, we want to thank everyone for turning up today. We had a good crowd here in the old Discord. Man, we got a real good crowd today. Holy smokes. That's one of the biggest shows we ever had in here. Thanks, everybody, for turning out. Yeah, Richiyama asked Brent if Battle Chess features babies, which is the... You need to get a shirt that just... you loving a Battle Chess box would be appropriate. John Bodokar Schaller actually, we mentioned he picked this game. And I'm going to plug a little something here for John Bodokar Schaller. Because, Bam, you know what's coming up to Brent? It's been announced. It just got announced over the weekend. It's Boat Fest. Can you believe Boat Fest is a real thing? It's happening, Brent. It's going to be coming up in June. Let me get the exact date here because Boat Fest recently got a date change done to it.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. It's going to be June. Let me see here. It'll be 24th and 25th of June, 2022.
Oh, right. Okay.
June 24th and 25th. It all goes down in the thriving, sprawling metropolis of Hurricane. Our local con is Boat Fest, Brent. That's where we're at now. And we'll be filling the sizable, luxurious gathering hall at the local Holiday Inn with big, huge boat fans. They're going to be coming in droves.
Now, Aaron, I was very disappointed with the presentation of Boat Fest. That's right. I could not believe there was not more hype put behind this incredible event.
Well, listen.
No, shut up. I'm going to do this.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Guys, I know for some of you out there, this is outside the realm of possibility. If you live on a different continent, it would be a tremendous show of support to come to Boat Fest, right? I'm not expecting it. Although, kudos to you if you tune in, because we're going to try to do all this online too.
Oh, that'll happen.
But if you are in the area and you want to see a little boy's dream come true, and that little boy is John Bodokar Schaller, making this a sellout event, and we can only sell 50 tickets. I mean, you got to start small. You got to walk before you run. So I am hyped for this, Aaron. I am hyped so much. I want to do panels. I want to have merchandise.
Yeah,
I
merchandise. You're killing me.
I want to get out there, and for the people who are able to come, and for the people who are willing to watch at home, I personally am going to make sure they have a wonderful time. I'm hyped for this. I can't believe that you made the announcement, right? I went back and watched it, and I was like, why are they not hyping this up more? This is a big deal.
Well, it is a big deal. Listen, you gotta divvy up the hype over a series of months and years. This thing's a long time away, but I will say this.
No, you start at 100 and then you go to 1,000. That's how the hype meter goes.
Already signed to appear at Boat Fest. In fact, he's going to be one of the king dogs at Boat Fest. Is our good buddy Rob O'Hara Flack. Jack Flack is going to be there. Something else we're going to do is, Bam, you're going to get an ARG Presents live in front of a studio audience. You're going to get Amigos live in front of a studio audience. You're going to get all the satellite shows, Coco, the R. Sinclair, the Atari ST show. It's all going to happen there. There's going to be karaoke. There's going to be the whole enchilada. We're going to film the whole thing. We're going to stream the whole thing nonstop. It should be awesome. The tickets.
There's going to be energy in the air.
That's right.
That you cannot capture online, and we're going to do our best to capture it for the people who just can't make it out.
That's right.
Or who aren't able to get a ticket. Because I'm telling you, I think once the schedule goes up, and once people see how committed we as a conglomerate are to this goal, I think it's going to be a bunch of hype. I think it's going to get bought out fast, and I can't wait to meet some of these people that I only know by their username or talking to them on Discord.
Yeah.
I'm pumped, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe people aren't more pumped. I'm ready to go.
I will say, man, you're the king. You're never this excited about our show. Maybe you should start Brent Fest. Nobody's coming to that. The truth of the matter is, I don't know exactly how many tickets will be sold, because they'll probably sell more than 50, because it's not like that's how many you can have in the room. But I think they'll probably sell more. But I would wager they'll go pretty quick. It's not like we're taking these things are expensive, but it's gonna be a good time. It's weird. All the years ago when I coined the name of Boat Fest to mock John for being an idiot, never did I in my wildest dreams think he'd go out and do it. He's been talking about having a local con for 6-7 years now. I always laughed at him and pointed at him, made faces, throw stuff. But it has come to pass. It will be
Absolutely.
Boat Fest.
I can't wait.
So we'll be giving that more of a nod over the weeks and months. It'll be fun to do some live shows. That'll be interesting. We've never done that, so that'll be kind of cool. Brent, next week, Baby Games, we'll give that a whirl. Again, thanks everybody for turning out and cheering me and Indy 500 on the victory. And until next week.
Aaron, you couldn't make your game past the first curve.
I know. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the show. Special thank you to Duncan Styles for our vector-style graphics and BartBit for our amazing music. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning? You can do so at patreon.com/ARGpresents. Just like these fine folks. Rollo, Olaf Hope, Terry Howard, Gary Heather, John Schaller, the Slow Norris, Frodo and L, Chris Fold, Mitiyama, Jason Warnes, Rob, Flack O'Hara, Andy Craig, Andy Jones, Kevin Bean, Pachaco 6502, Anthony Jarvis, Steve Rasmussen, Bernhard Lucas, Dave Velociraptor, Graham W. Vetke, Raushi, Mr. B, David Terrence, Super Tech Boy, Horam, Sundown, Texas Foosballer, Air Shack, Retroalgy, John Dykeman, Jerry Dennington, Z9K9, and Mario Ramey. They all have access to our Discord channel, and their names put and called out in the credits. Why don't you? If you have an idea for a wheel piece, you can email us at argpresents@mail.com. Be sure to visit our sponsor, RetroRewind.ca, and use promo code ARG10 to get 10% off your order. We film live every Sunday, 10 a.m. EDT. Hope to see you there.